You can see that the cherry blossoms have just about finished here in Tokyo. There's a guy cleaning up the petals because there's so many white petals along the walkway here. I was looking at the news recently and this sort of went underneath the radar. If you are in India in particular, you don't need to go to the consulate or embassy to get your visa anymore. And I started, I've been talking about this for a very long time. How does Japan reach its numbers to get tourists to come in here to reach their goals? They really needed to bring in India because the numbers of tourists coming from China has decreased significantly. This is huge, and it really wasn't covered. I guess there's so many other things happening in the world, like these cherry blossoms, that we kind of forget about these other things. But April 1st starts the new year, and in Japan anyways, and there's so many different changes that take place as a result of that. And India is one of the people that is going to see the beneficiary of this amazing big change. Now, JNTO, which is the Japan National Tourism Organization, posts the number of tourists that come in here. The goal that Japan has right now is 40 million tourists, which puts it in line with like France and Italy, which is pretty huge, considering I think there were about 3 or 4 million tourists that came in 1998 when I first came here. Now we have, it's 10 times the number of tourists that there were when I first came here, which is crazy to think about. But just in February, which is the latest numbers we have, 2.8 million tourists if we round up. That is an amazing growth. And if you compare it to it's 7% more than then, which is seeming like, I remember back during those times where everyone was really upset at Japan for closing the borders and being really harsh. They didn't stay away. People are coming, and it's an incredible thing. Let's just take a really quick look at the numbers before we go into this eVISA changes. Again, I find this kind of stuff really fascinating. JNTO posts these numbers all the time. These are the arrival numbers for 2019 and 2024, the 5 years apart on either end of that era that we had where we couldn't travel anywhere. I'd like to forget about that as well. You can see there is just a gain, except in January it was about the same, and you can see now we're really starting to build momentum, and Japan wants to keep that going, which is I think why we're starting to see these policy changes, which is kind of exciting. And I think for those that are in India, we have a small percentage of viewers from India that are watching. This is a really big deal. In particular, if you had all of these hurdles, you had to show your financial records, you had to show all this proof at the embassy in order to get the visa to come here. It was kind of a hassle. It's just surprising that a lot of Indians actually did make it here. We're going to look at the numbers here really quickly, which is fascinating. In 2019, this is the numbers from then, China had about, 28% of the tourists, which is the biggest percentage besides South Korea, which is above it, of visitors coming to Japan. It was massive back in 2019. You couldn't walk around Ginza, for example, without hearing Chinese being spoken. East Asia making up 8% of the traffic. Now you can see in 2024, China makes up only 16.5% of the tourists. That's a massive drop, but Japan is still getting the numbers of tourists to come here, which means they're making up the difference in other places, and those places are the United States, for example. More people coming from South Korea, the relationship is getting a little bit warmer, we're seeing massive gains from other countries, and these numbers are really important to look at because, when I have my audience for YouTube, when I make the videos, I kind of have Americans in mind. But when you look at the numbers, the majority of people coming to Japan are not from America or even from the West. They're from the neighboring countries here. And you can see that the numbers are quite significant. The biggest which country, and this is a shout out to the live chat here because this is a live stream. Which country do you think had the biggest gain of them all? All right, the United States, you can see it's just growing right there. The biggest is that is a 166% gain. Do you see it right there? It's underneath Canada and between the Canada and the United States. Mexico had the largest percentage of gain in terms of tourism into Japan, which is crazy, 166%. Everybody's thinking people from Mexico want to go to the United States. They do, but I think a lot of them are coming here to Japan as well, which is pretty awesome for us. They're coming in, the political stuff legally. So let's keep it at bay right there. But India is the country, and you can see Malaysia has a 65% gain, and China has a minus 37% decrease in tourism between those two bookend years here. Um, India is the place where you're going to get the biggest growth. It is the most populous country in the world. It is one of the neighbors. There's some similarities in the culture. There's some like alliances between the two countries. They're two big democracies in Asia, so there's a lot of symmetry, as well as Indonesia is another country that I think you're going to see more opening up to. I think Indonesia is also available to get these e-visas. It didn't make the news here. Like I saw this, the Times of India, which I don't know if this is a good publication or not, introduces this came out on April 4th, this article, and it shows that, you know, you can now get single entry visas for stays up to 90 days in Japan for people in India. Like, you know, I've been calling for this for years if they wanted to hit those numbers. The eligible countries are Australia, Brazil, Cambodia, Canada, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, South Africa, Taiwan, UAE, United Kingdom, and the United States. These are countries where you can get, I'm not even sure. I don't think you need to get a visa at all if you're from the United States. I think you just arrive and you get the visa on arrival, right? Well, India, for India, you need to go through the website and get this. And I'm gonna take a look at that now. There's other nationalities that also need to do this. Let's take a look at this together, shall we? So the best source is the source where it all comes from, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You can see here Japan's e-visa system, which E meaning electronic visa. This came out April 1st, 2024. Foreign nationals who wish to travel to Japan for tourism for a short stay period can apply for a visa online. Again, like, I don't think that you have to do this for the U.S., do you? I'm not 100% sure there. The eligibility, it shows the countries that were listed there. Australia, Brazil, Cambodia, Canada, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, South Africa, Taiwan, UAE, UK, and USA. Foreign nationals from these countries, except those that are exempt from short-term visa, can apply for an e-visa through here. Like, I thought you just get it on arrival in the U.S., but maybe it's changed. Application should be made through an accredited agency in the countries reasonable. Now, some of the countries can go straight through the Japan's government's page, and then there's some countries that cannot do that, and these countries are below. China, which are nationals from China, they have a sort of their own approach. Vietnam as well. And then there's number 3, which includes Hong Kong, India, Indonesia, Macau, Mongolia, and the Republic of Korea. These countries, I believe, have to go through the website. It's still a little confusing to me because I'm not sure, but India is on this list. And that's sort of a big deal. That wasn't there before a few days ago. So there's going to be a lot of questions, and some YouTubers in India are already putting videos on how to do this. So if you're Indian, you're probably going to find an Indian YouTuber who probably knows this a little bit more. I'm talking about it from the Japan side and some of the ramifications of this being here. So these are all short-term, single-entry short-term visas coming in here. If you're looking for a work visa and things like this, you're probably going to have to go through the consulate or the embassy with a certificate of eligibility, or COE document. A lot of people know there. So this document is coming from the source of there, right? Now let's go into the, I pushed I clicked the link there, and you get some of the information. This also comes from the embassy in India. I think this is from the Indian embassy, the Japanese embassy in India. The announcement, short-term visas for up to 90 days. Indians and foreign nationals who reside in India all have to go through this. It goes through a third-party, VFS Global, so you have to pay a fee, I believe, if you go through a third party. This is not free, I believe. And it says here that it's all based on the smartphone, right? And I know I'm close because I'm looking at the screen here. This is a video on the application process. It's kind of fascinating for me. This is all going to change over the next year or two. But this is what we have in 2024. It lays it out like it's a really easy process to get the e-visa. If you're worried or want to know more about it, I'll put the link in the description, but you just can Google e-visa Japan on YouTube, and this video should pop up because it comes from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Yeah, 90 days, Jody, is enough time for any first timer. That's enough time to do a lot of travel in 90 days. I think 30 days is enough, really. But the process is pretty simple, and you don't have to have all of the documents, and you don't have to make an appointment. I think going into the consulate or embassy was sort of the main hurdle, but you also had to show like financial records and things like that. But now the flow has been simplified and make it easier. And I bet you that those flights from Delhi and Mumbai and Bangalore and Chennai and all the Madras, all these other Chennai is Madras, all these other cities are probably going to be full now. Particularly going through Singapore, which is how I usually, or Dubai, which is how I usually get to India. I don't fly Air India very often. A little scary. But the process looks like it's been simplified, which is a really good sign. There's also a lot of projects going on, including the Shinkansen. A lot of you might not know about this one, but right now there is a Mumbai to Ahmedabad Shinkansen being built. Look, they put the name right on the Tohoku Shinkansen, which is kind of funny. But Japan and India are working together on Shinkansen technology that are going to be going 350 kilometers per hour. So there's a great exchange between the two countries right now. And this is a really positive thing, I think. For tourism numbers, what does it mean for you? If you thought that Japan was busy now, you just wait. I was involved as a consultant on a Bollywood picture project about, I think it's been about eight or 9 years now, where very famous Bollywood producer came to Tokyo to discuss about it. There was a movie back in the 1960s called Love in Tokyo, I believe, and it created a lot of tourism to Japan from India. Bollywood movies, when they're set in location, they really stir up Indians to visit these kinds of places, which is why Switzerland and Spain and certain places in Europe have seen a huge influx of tourists from the region. And I know that the Japanese government is working hard to try to get Bollywood pictures made here. And if the numbers of Indians coming here, think about just 1% of India's population is the entire population of Japan. If you were to get 1% of the people to come visit here, Japan's wouldn't worry about nothing except infrastructure for tourism, which is kind of a worry. There was also stuff in the news that was sort of negative. I thought one of the articles that I saw was about how a lot of the people who overstayed their visas in the United Kingdom were from India, people that just didn't go home. I don't think that's so much of an issue here because England and India both have English in common. It's easier to work there. It's a little bit easier to live there. Japan's quite strict with immigration, meaning if you overstay your visa and things like this, you don't want to go to a detention center. I think the cultures are different enough where, yeah, this might not be the most ideal place to want to live. And you're not going to make as much money in Japan as you are going to make working in the United Kingdom. So there's reasons why United Kingdom might have a lot more people overstaying their visas from India there than that would possibly be here. So I don't think that's going to be such a huge issue. We would have had that issue with visitors from China as well, and we didn't have that. So well, there are people that did, but not at the numbers that you think. I think that Japan does a pretty good job of enforcing its border. You know, it is an island nation after all, right? I'm going to look at some of the questions. I think this kind of stuff is really fascinating. You can take a look at the cherry blossoms as I do this. If you have any questions, please light up that live chat, and I'll be on here for another 10 minutes or so. I'll walk around and show you some of the beautiful blossoms in Tokyo's canal here. Appreciate it. Citizens of Canada, US do not need to apply for the eVISA. Thank you, Raymond, for reminding everybody of that. This is just for certain nationalities. What's the website again? For what? I think just Google eVISA Japan and you should get it. But the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is your final information source, because this is the one where everything comes from there. And that's the most important. People go to the official source, MOFA, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That is where you get everything. And this is what you should also check before you make a trip to Japan, just to make sure that there aren't any changes that might impact your. There are definitely a lot of changes that are happening and probably still to happen before we settle into everyday travel. Things didn't change so much between 2015 and 2018. I got to be honest. The changes that have happened since, you know, that era have been pretty incredible to me. But yeah, there you go. Yesterday, Peter and I talked about what is it? We had 25 years here in Japan. You can see I've been here for a very long time. I look much younger, no white hair there. I think I was 25, 24 years old there. And I'm trying to find trying to see if I can find some of these kids. I was doing the math. These kids right here with me are now 35 years old. Jaw drop. Holy smokes, they're 9 years old here. So this was like 25 years ago. So they're like 34, 35 years old. Isn't that crazy? So if I can find some of these kids, I wonder how their lives have been changed, right? It's pretty incredible. That's how long I've been here. I'm laughing because it's an uncomfortable laugh. It's a very long time. I don't feel old though. I'm just living my life, man. I don't feel that old. I feel good. It's just kind of shocking when you think about it. You can see that the blossoms have fallen. Most of it is now in the water or being swept up by people you saw. They do a good job of that. John probably won't recognize them. Yeah, I'm absolutely sure that they wouldn't, but I'm sure that they remember me. I'm somebody you kind of don't forget if I'm your teacher for a year. I'm a teacher you probably don't forget. That's for sure. All right, not a lot of questions here. You can leave comments in the chat below or in the comments below, and I appreciate it. I try my best the first couple of days to respond. We also have a Discord community that's pretty vibrant. We have people talking about entry procedures, and even during that era, we had a lot of back and forth, which is so helpful from those that were coming into the country first on the procedures and processes needed. It's so much simpler now to come into Japan, and making it seamless, I think, is going to be part of the process of getting repeaters to come back, and that's where Japan really excels. A lot of people will go to Europe and have a good time there, but the travelers that come to Japan, when I'm looking at the data, they seem to come back again and again, more than once. It seems like people really love it when they come to Japan. Yesterday, Peter and I were talking about the comedian on CBS. What's his name? Jimmy Kimmel. We're talking about Jimmy Kimmel and his experience there, and we kind of tongue-in-cheek compared it to Tucker Carlson's trip to Moscow, where they both commented on how clean. Oh, look at the birdie here. Wow. Is that an aosagi? Wow. You are beautiful. Look at that. And again, this is a testament to how clean Japan has made the city waterways over the last couple of years, last couple of decades, really. It's been taking a long time. I've heard stories from the old timers about how dirty and how bad the city smelled in the summer. And now we have birds like this. Wow, that's stunning. I don't know what kind of bird. Does anybody know? Very cool. Taking advantage of the cherry blossom petals, bringing in edible creatures, I guess. Daniel, how dare you? You have the same color hair, just more gray. Are you talking about the picture or that bird? Because I don't think we have the same hair at all. Do we? Excuse me. We look nothing alike. Could you confirm that, please? Do you know Toby? Oh, that was enough to get him to get out of here. Toby, as many of you might know, is my nemesis. In fact, it's all of our nemesis. How dare you, Toby? Don't think I forget. Michael Sasano doesn't forget. Aloha, you're definitely unforgettable. Afternoon stack, if you're up to it. I am. Brandy, will see you soon. I was just talking to Brandy. She's getting ready for her trip. Question for the chat here, I guess I can bring this up. When you come into Japan, how do you change your money? Or do you change your money? My advice to Brandy was to use your ATM card and get money out of the wall. Make sure your bank allows you to do that. And you probably get the most favorable rate by taking money from 7-Eleven or the post office. Those are the two institutions that accept foreign cards pretty good. I don't know. I think, it's funny. My bank, UFJ, Mitsubishi Bank, I don't know what they call it nowadays, MUFUG, they have an abbreviation. They started taking the Discover card at their ATMs. It's just bizarre to me because Japanese ATMs were on no systems except their own, each bank for their own. And, it was always a real hassle. The banks would close at 3 p.m. and you wouldn't be able to get out money until the next day, or during holidays, they would close for an entire week, meaning you couldn't get out cash for a week. Isn't that crazy? That's what it was like 25 years ago here. But peso withdraws from SMBC too. So again, the Japanese banks again are making sure they can get a couple of dollars fees from the travelers, which makes a lot of sense. They're making less money because they're just less Japanese, and they can't really raise the fees too much. That's good advice. So just kind of look around, but I never go to the cash changing booths anymore. I always go right to the ATM, or you can get cash at your bank, I guess might be the best place, but it's all about finding how to do it. My credit union reimburses 5 times ATM fees. Interesting. For US visitors, sign up for the Schwab checking account, no foreign fees or rebates, and they rebate ATM fees. Interesting. So I guess it does pay if you're a long-time traveler to have a special account. But let me tell you what I used to do. I backpacked the world. Again, this is going back to being here for so many years. I used to, my first 7 years, I would do a contract as an English teacher, take the savings, and I would backpack for six to 9 months around the world. I've been around the world, I guess, like 5 or 6 times. This is before YouTube, unfortunately, or I'd be one of those YouTubers, you know. I used to overpay my credit card. I don't know if anybody did this as well. You can't do it anymore. But I would overpay my credit card by $3,000, and then I would be able to withdraw cash with no penalty and no fees from my credit card from ATMs around the world that were on the Plus or the Cirrus system. And I did that for years. I would overpay my credit card before I left, and they would, and after a while they got wise, and then they started to refund me the money, send me checks back, which caused, problems. But for the longest time, they wouldn't do that. They just had a surplus on a credit card, which turned it into a debit card. That's pretty crazy, right? I don't think you can overpay now. Right, you could back then. Or I think one of my credit cards might have a surplus right now. I was reimbursed for an order that never arrived from Amazon, and they recharged it back, but I'd already paid it off, and now there's a surplus on my credit card. So I guess they could do it, depending, but you can't. I sent a check in, and I overpaid, and I took advantage of that, and that's interesting. Like, there's lots of little shortcuts. Just a note, as we are in April 2024, this is the weakest the yen has ever been. It's 153.3 to the dollar, and getting worse. Prime Minister Kishida, and I might do a video reacting to it, spoke English at a joint session of Congress today or yesterday. I can't remember because I'm in the future. I watched it about 10 hours ago. It's impressive, and I was deeply moved by his speech, although it's political stuff. I was deeply moved, not by what the words were, but by the fact that he was speaking English, because we have Shohei Ohtani and others that use interpreters. It kind of makes Japanese look like they have an inability to speak English. The Prime Minister did good, and I'm proud of him. He's not very popular in Japan, which was part of his opening remarks, but it was really, a lot of kids are going to watch that too, and now understand the value of learning English, and I think that's a good thing. Raymond, I know it was 201 in the 80s. It was actually 270. I think it was in the 300s for a time in the 70s. There's a lot of people watching that have, that Akebono has, really? Oh man, he was one of the first foreigners that I met in 1998. He was at the Nagoya Grand Championship, and I went to that, and he came out, and I spoke English to him. There weren't a lot of Americans, there weren't a lot of Westerners going to sumo in Nagoya in 98. And I remember he was just really, really happy, and he spoke to us, and yeah, wow, he was a very, very hospitable person. Big heart, literally and physically hearted man. And I believe Hawaiian, right? God, it was a long time ago. I'm really sad to hear that news. Akebono was the first sumo yokozuna. Yeah, that's really sad. Thanks for sharing that with me. I had no idea. We've lost a lot of people in the last couple of weeks that has been pretty devastating, including I knew OJ before OJ was OJ, before the trial. Gosh, what was that? I was in high school when that Bronco was going by there, and we lost that chapter. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. We got a question here. Personality for Brick Wall. Hey, I'm coming and to say hi in July since I'm there one day of no activity in my trip unless you aren't in Tokyo. Then I will. July I might be in the U.S. actually. We're talking about that right now. What we want to do for summer vacation. Going home to visit family never feels like a vacation though. It feels like going home to visit family, especially Christmas time. 169 yen to the dollar in 1969. It's easy to remember the number 69, isn't it? That's all I got for you today. I appreciate it. Yesterday was a fun live stream with Peter. Go check that out if you haven't already. I've got a postcard that I'm going to go take to. Do you have a picture of it? I've got a postcard I'm going to be sending out today. If you were to sign up for the Postcard Club in the next 15 minutes, I will send it to you from Shinjuku. Here it is right now. This is the postcard. I like this one. This is a shot from the last video, main channel video. You could see the Yamanote line, the Chuo line, and the Sobu line all passing at the same time. This is in Shinjuku at a spot that I think every Hollywood movie, when they talk about Tokyo, they use this picture. So it's the front of our postcard this month. I can't even remember. I might have used this a couple of years ago as well. I don't remember. I don't think so. But this will be the postcard for this month. Yeah, nice stamp on it as well. I've sent out almost 100. I think this might be the 100th postcard. What? All right, I'm gonna go check out. I've been doing this since 2007. So yeah, 2017. So I think that it's getting close to the 100th postcard. That's a big deal. I can't believe I've done 100 of these. Wow. All right, yeah. If you do sign up for it, I will take it with me with all the others, and I'll take it to the Shinjuku post office. I'm sending the Shinjuku card from Shinjuku, so it has a Shinjuku postmark on it. I like the little details of it, and this is kind of what makes this postcard club, which I think is one of the original postcard clubs, the best. I know some of my other friends are doing postcard clubs too, because it's a fun idea to do. It is kind of a big milestone, especially if you've collected all 100 of them. And I think there's about 5 people in the club that have stuck in there from the start. And when we do hit the 100 one, I will send them a special postcard or a card to say thank you, because anyone who sticks with you for it's like 8 years. That's just an incredible thing. The support is so welcome. Oh, one last thing I wanted to ask. I'm going to bring this up to the Patreon supporters, but would you guys like your names in the title call? Because I can put up things on. I can put up like pictures and stuff on here. I can also put up the names of supporters. Is that something that I think you guys would be interested in, to see your names up on the end of the stream to say thank you? I know some of the other YouTube creators do that. It's something that one of the supporters brought up, and I said, I can do that, I think. Is this something that a lot of you that are supporting on Patreon would be interested in? Because I think, gosh, we have like over 1,000 people on the Patreon. Most of them aren't paying anything, actually. There's a lot of free supporters, which you can do if you're on Patreon. You don't have to pay anything to be on Patreon. But I'm also thinking about adding more content for free and $1. Some people just give $1 content, so that everybody can kind of get some information off of Patreon, because I think it's a pretty useful site. Not just that, but for the support of the channel. That would be pretty cool, writes in Michael. Yeah. What are the changes happening, writes in Super Crazy Man? Well, you're at the end of the stream now. I can sum it up real quickly as we look at the blossoms and I say matane. On April 1st, eVISA changes occurred, and some of the nationalities that had to go to the consulate to get the visas now can just go to can do it online for 90-day short stay visas. You still need to go to the consulate to get work visas with a certificate of eligibility, but you can get your e-visas much more easily. And for India, which has the world's largest population, they can now come with e-visas applied without going to the consulate, which I think is going to make, we only had 10,000 visitors from India, which is crazy small considering the population. This is only going to get bigger and bigger, and it's going to make up for the 38% drop in Chinese tourists since 2019. I think that they're going to make that up with the other neighbors, more people from Korea, more people from Singapore, Hong Kong, more people from Taiwan are starting to come to Japan. And that's making up the difference between the Chinese tourists. Indian tourists, I don't know if they're good or bad. I'll tell you, my family would like to come here. On the whole, comparing them to Chinese tourists, which had a reputation, not all of them. I'd say some were not that good, but then you can say that about tourists from the United States as well. Johnny Somali and others. Sorry, clearing my throat of some really bad slime, scum. That's all I got for you. I hope that this was informational. I'll keep doing stuff like this. I also want to talk about some other things in the news that'll affect travel to Japan. This really does affect you. If you do come to Japan, you're going to see more Indian tourists coming. Hopefully the Indian food in Japan will also become more authentic. We'll see some pure veg restaurants, I'm sure, coming, more halal food options, some more of everything. And that's not a bad thing. UFO Bob bans me. What did I miss? Did I say something already? Oh my. Oh, you mean in China? No, it's all right. I think the relationship's going to get better over time, but hey, got to be real about it. I got tons of friends in China. I'd love to go back and visit them soon. All right, everybody. Mata ne. Bye from Tokyo.